Dear Diary, $10 cinematic plugins shouldn't work with horror metal, right? This is Scream 4's parking garage scene reimagined with a $10 cinematic string plugin and 7-string metal riffs, obviously. The challenge for this scene is that there is not much action going on screen, there is a lot of tension, and the original score by Marco Beltrami is just super effective for that, and you can see that on the waveform of the original audio. There is not that much going on. Let me walk you through the scene real quick and then we'll get to the metal. In this scene, Rebecca is leaving the hospital, she's going to the parking garage to get to her car, and she receives a phone call from Ghostface.
If you want to be in the hospital, I'd be happy to put you there. In the morgue!
I just love the Scream franchise. So she gets in her car, she gets another phone call but doesn't answer the phone, try to start her car but that's not happening. Oh no, the hood is open. But wait, Ghostface is there and he's gone. She's scared, nothing is happening.
Couldn't run, you fucking bastard!
She finally steps out of the car, she checks if there is no one under the car, then the car alarm goes off, she's scared. And she decides to go back to the door she came from. So she's running, there is a bit of hope, and she breaks the handle. And oh no, there is Ghostface. And she dies in a parking lot. And as strange as it may seem, this is not where my name comes from. But anyway, I have to stand my ground with this scene.
This is an ongoing investigation.
And we go to the next scene. Since there is a lot of place to let the string breathe and create some tension, so we have to be super effective and selective about what we are doing. Basically, we're gonna put some metal in the intense part of the scene, and then we'll fill the empty spaces and create some tension with the cinematic string plugin. Yes, nailed it, I did. So I'm going to use my Schecter Sunset Extreme 7-string. I've created this tone with Archetype Nolly X. It's gainy, it's dirty, it's thick. What's more to ask? For those riffs, I'd like to keep the corny rock and roll playful vibe of the Scream franchise. So first we're going to lay some simple chord on the guitar. I'm also going to need things to go on the synthwave side of things. I'm going to start from a lean drum preset in Addictive Drums 2. And then let's set a synth bass from Repro 5. Sounds like that. If you put everything together, we end up with that.
In the morgue!
It's really synthwavy. Then we need a bit of a heavier riff when Ghostface appears on the hood of the car. What this riff needs is a really simple drum part and a bass that follows it. Then when the car alarm goes off, we need to create a bit more of tension with the guitar. We can go with this riff. And rewrite the rhythmic section to follow the guitar accents. Then we need to give a bit of hope to Rebecca when she thinks she has found her escape door. But the guitar also needs to give a sense of doom, so we're going to go in a downward pattern with the chords. It goes like that. Then we'll keep the drum as effective and simple as it can be and add the synthwave pattern to the bass that follows the guitar. So here's everything with the scene. She's stabbed, it's a nasty kill, we need nasty riffs. That's a bit of Tal inspiration for that breakdown. So we're going to write the drums that follows the chugs with the kick, and the bass is going to play the same thing as the kick. However, to keep the metal instrumentation really effective, I'd like to lay some real bass under that riff. I use the same tone as my Halloween Tal Rescore. And I'm going to follow the kick pattern with the real bass as well. And last but not least, let's add my Schecter Sun Valley Exotic to the mix, just for some dive bomb action with the Floyd during the stabbing. We have the riffs, now we need the strings. This is Pocket Strings from the Crowhill company. I can't believe this plugin is $10. Full disclaimer, there is no disclaimer, I'm not affiliated. However, I got this plugin for free, which is nice, when they started releasing it, and you could get it for free if you were subscribed to their newsletters. So it was an obvious yes at the time. It's a light version of their glass string plugin, and it doesn't get much simpler than what you have on the screen in front of you. On the right side, you're gonna find 3 articulation. You have some long strings, shorts, and plucks. Then below that is where you're going to shape your string sound. So you have some orchestral strings. You have some vintage synth strings. And some epic analog strings. I'm not a keyboard player, you know that. One of the many things that's great with this plugin is that you can blend your 3 types of strings up to your taste. You can also add a bass an octave down what you're playing with a flick of the switch. And here you can automate the expressiveness of the strings if you don't want to play it with your mod wheels or assign some automation to those parameters over there. You can choose how many bars you want per shape. And then on the left, below the expression wheels, you have some reverb parameters with different reverb types. I really like the glisten one. A kind of shimmery reverb. And then you have the glass effect, which affect the general EQ of the instruments. Which can be really helpful in the mix. So a lot of possibilities with a really simple plugin. And one thing I love with the plugs is when you start playing really hard, you get a kind of percussive sound. So I can have some kind of cinematic percussion without cinematic percussion. That's really cool. Now that I composed the string parts, let me walk you through the possibilities of the plugin and what I did to this Rescore. I used the pluck and short articulation a lot to amplify the action on the screen, also to add some dissonance or some swells, and used more of the long articulation to create more tension in the scene. For example, at the beginning of the scene, I created some dissonance with the plucks and the shorts. There is also a short melody to grab your attention through that scene. and a riser to go with the phone call and to the morgue. Then I expanded the small melody idea to go with the first riff I recorded. And it goes really well with the riff. Then we arrive to this part of the scene when there's nothing much going on except the phone call. Then I stopped everything with some dissonance with the strings. I added some very long notes to keep the tension in the scene, so there is those two layers, which are basically a low and a high pitch notes. And to slightly increase the tension in the scene, I added a callback to the short melody I had at the beginning. And played them harder and harder so I could have that percussive element I showed you before. For the scene when Ghostface appears, I went with the percussive elements as my cinematic drums type of sound, and also went with some short swells to add some tension. And then a small crescendo at the end to increase the tension before releasing it when we realize Ghostface is gone. So here's everything with the guitar riffs. Then there is this long section where nothing really happens except Rebecca being scared in her car. At first I wanted to add some kind of room tone, and then I thought, yeah, but I can do that with pocket strings, right? So I did this really tiny shimmering pad. And also added this low-key melody underneath. I went with some pulsing rhythm to amplify the tension in the scene, and started introducing the accent I played just after that on the guitars. So when the alarm goes off, it really acts as a kind of jump scare. Then when she's starting to run and try to reach the door, I went full action mode with the percussive plugs, the short action strings, and some swells. And then I tried to go against the descending pattern of the chords on the guitar and went the other way with the strings. It adds a bit of dissonance, but I think it works well with this scenario. Finally, for the breakdown, I wrote a string part that goes over the guitar riffs. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. If you ask me, I think that's really impressive for a $10 plugin. Real quick, I'd also like sharing with you 3 sound design decisions I had to make. The first one is the dark rouge sound effects when Ghostface Shadows goes behind Rebecca's car. So we're missing something, so I just added that. Logic's Stem Splitter is really great with music, but it struggles a bit with a scene like that, which I completely understand. But some Foley, some sound design, sometimes it was a bit off. And this part when the car alarm goes off, the alarm sound was just stuck with the music. So I simply got a car alarm sample and played it over the scene. So what you hear in my rescored scene is not the original car alarm, which sounds like that. It works. And also at the very end, for the transition between the two scenes, I made the decision to keep the original final orchestral swell just to make the transition. And it transitions really well with what I did.
This is an ongoing investigation.
And I think this scene is just too funny not to include it. Like, everyone is dying, but rest assured, we have some leads. That was a really fun rescore to do. I'm really amazed about the quality of this affordable plugin. It just sounds great, and I feel it really fits the scene we did today. Let's check together the ending of the scene to check how this $10 plugin mixed really well together with the metal riffs.
This is an ongoing investigation. Rest assured.
I love it. I love the Scream franchise. I love slasher movies. Let me know what you think about this rescore in the comments. If you allow me, I'm just going to finish real quick this mix, and you can find the full rescore scene right here. If your song needs some production, mixing or mastering service, you can hit me up at the link below at tvsounds.com. And if you're curious to check how I did another one of my rescores, you can check this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.